look for satisfaction, look for fulfillment, look for blessing just beyond the boundary. In fact, we see this all the way back at the very beginning of the Bible. We see this in Genesis chapter 2. Here's this garden where Adam and Eve are able to be there. They're living, they're breathing, they're in this place. It's this beautiful place, the Garden of Eden, with beautiful fruit, beautiful trees, everything they could ever want, right? I mean, it's just a place of beauty, even beautiful people. The reason we know it's beautiful people is because Adam, at the sight of Eve, this amazing woman, he's like, whoa, man, right? I mean, okay, terrible pastor joke, I get it, but you know, they had everything. They had more fruit than they could ever eat. They had more blessing. I mean, it was like a Whole Foods market, if you've ever been there, on steroids. I mean, they everything they could ever want, everything they could ever need. And kind of much like God does with Joshua, he kind of lays out this one little caveat with Adam and Eve. Like, listen, here's everything you could ever want, everything you could ever need. I want to bless you. I want to pour blessing into your life. As long as you stay within this little boundary. As long as you enjoy the 99.9% of the garden and hold back on this one little thing. This one fruit from the tree of life. Listen, everything else is yours. But this one thing. This one thing. And I love that picture because again, you know, it can be sometimes kind of easy when we look back on that and you know, oftentimes I've read the story, preached the story a million times, and you know, so often I look at it like, why? Why would anyone, why would you give up all of that for that one thing? And you know, when you think about it, we all do that, though. You know, we do that all the time, especially in our day and age. And as just like Adam and Eve in the process, just like they in the process of giving up, you know, everything to get this one thing. And interesting enough, they came away with nothing. They didn't get any of it. You know, that's the curse and brokenness and all that stuff. And again, we can look back and think, man, why would you ever do that? You know, I've had people tell me like, you know, one of the first things when I get to heaven, I'm gonna go talk to Adam and man, tell him that you should have manned up there, you should have stopped this, or Eve, what were you thinking? You know, and yet the truth is, we all do it. Especially in our culture. We live in a culture, we live in a world that's constantly telling us you want fulfillment, you want satisfaction, you want to do great things in life. It's always found just beyond the boundary. One more thing. And oftentimes that one more thing is the one thing we don't have. Oh man, I'd have a great marriage if I just had that one guy, like I watch on the Hallmark movies. Who always picks up all of his laundry and, you know, so this amazing guy. Then I'd really have blessing. Then I'd really be satisfied. Or if I had that one job, right? If I had just that pay raise and man, you know, then I'd have that fulfillment. Of course, then we get it, and there's always, though, just that one more thing. And again, it's subtle. By the way, I get it. I get it while we fall in the trap. I mean, it's subtle. You know, I mean, advertisers and marketers, by the way, they know this. They know our tendency is always to default towards discontentment. To always default towards always feeling like we need one more thing to ultimately be satisfied, to ultimately step into and feel like we're experiencing blessing in our life. In fact, I was thinking about this, and I think good timing for this commercial, being Martin Luther King Jr. weekend. But there was a commercial that I saw a couple years ago in the Super Bowl, and I loved it. I mean, super inspiring on the surface when you listen to the message. And in fact, I want you to take a look at it. Here's the commercial.
If you want to be important, wonderful. If you want to be recognized, wonderful. If you want to be great, wonderful. But recognize that he who is greatest among you shall be your servant. That's a new definition of greatness. By giving that definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great. You don't have to know how Plato and Aristotle said. You don't have to know the theory of relativity. You don't have to know the seven
great message, right? I mean, yeah, I want to be great. I want to do great things. I want to achieve some stuff in life, right? And then suddenly, did you notice the subtle, maybe not so subtle, one more thing? Like you really want to get there. You want to do some great things. Yes, sir. Make a difference. Give beyond yourself. Oh yeah, but one more thing you might need is this amazing truck. Yeah, gosh, you really want to do something great in life. And again, it's subtle. It's subtle. In fact, what's interesting is I saw the same commercial, and it was put together with the words of the rest of that same sermon. There was a word spoken by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In this exact same sermon that they pulled those words from, and they're overlaid over the commercial. Why don't you take a look at this?
Explains why we are so often taken by advertisers. You know, those gentlemen of massive verbal persuasion. And they have a way of saying things to you that kind of gets you in the bind. In order to be a man of distinction, you must drink this whiskey. In order to make your neighbors envious, you must drive this type of car. In order to be lovely to love, you must wear this kind of lipstick or this kind of perfume. And you know, before you know it, you're just buying that stuff. And I got to drive this car because it's something about this car that makes my car a little better than my neighbor's car. And I am sad to say that the nation in which we live is the supreme culprit. And I'm going to continue to say it to America.
A little bit different perspective on that. And look, I share that with you. Again, this is not a rant on not getting a new truck or anything like that. If you get one, it's great. In fact, take me for a ride in it. It looks really cool. But again, it's about saying that listen, when it comes to that, these I want to encourage you, don't buy into that lie. Don't buy into the misconception that, man, fulfillment, true satisfaction is always bound into one more thing. You know, the truth is, and what we're going to discover in this story as we start to turn a corner on it, is that really blessing, satisfaction, fulfillment, it's not found always in the one more thing just beyond your boundaries. It's found in learning to appreciate the beauty within your boundaries, inside the boundaries that God has laid out, inside the boundaries that God has drawn. See, the key to contentment, put it this way, simply seeing and celebrating the beauty inside your boundaries. Seeing and celebrating the beauty inside your boundaries. And here's why this matters, and here's why this is significant for us, is because, listen, it's impossible to conquer your own land while you're coveting or comparing it to someone else's. Well, while you're looking at what you got, and again, you look at that Facebook post, and your friend, their kids are constantly picking up their laundry, their perfect smiles and perfect places, and it can be so easy for us to kind of lose sight of the blessing within our boundaries, the blessing in our marriage, the blessing in our family, the blessing in our job, because we're always looking at what somebody else has. Or we're just coveting, again, that one more thing just beyond the boundary. But as long as your focus is over there, as long as you're fixated on what's just beyond, you'll never truly conquer the land that God has placed right in front of you. Again, where's the victory found? Where's the blessing found? It's within these boundaries. And I share that because there's a character in the story by the name of Caleb that I think really embodies this. And you may remember from Sunday school, Joshua and Caleb, they were one of the original 12 spies that before they made this journey around the desert, they sent these spies in. They sent these spies in to check out the land. And so Joshua and Caleb, along with 10 other spies, they go in there and they come back, they see the land, they check it out, and Joshua and Caleb were like, hey, it's even better than what we thought it was. Like, truly, this is a land flowing of milk and honey. It's amazing. This is going to be incredible. And yet, unfortunately, for them, the other 10 spies didn't see it that way. Whereas Joshua and Caleb, they saw promise, they saw good things, they saw opportunity. And the other 10 were like, all we see is problems. There's giants in the land. There's fortified cities. There's no way that we're getting there. And as a result, they end up, wandering around for 40 years. And so when we catch up with Caleb, this is sort of after the 40 years wandering in the desert, and then this is another 5 years, actually, even beyond this, when we catch up to him in Joshua chapter 14, verse 10. And here he's talking about this inheritance. This inheritance that God had promised him, because you got to understand, Israel back in that time, it was broken up into 12 tribes. Each of the 12 tribes was given a section of this new land, this promised land. And so Caleb, he's been waiting patiently, and he's been helping fight with some of the other Israelites to seize their land. And it's getting to this point where he's like, I think I'm ready now for me and my tribe to take our land. It's our time to step into what God has already promised us, what God has already given us. And so this is kind of where we start seeing this conversation. Joshua 14:10 says, now then, just as the Lord promised, and by the way, I love this, it says, he has kept me alive. He has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses, while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. By the way, I love that he has kept me alive. I love the special relation of promise and purpose, because Caleb believed and Caleb recognized that he wasn't alive because everyone else was stronger than that he was stronger than everyone else who died in the wilderness. Now let me put it this way, and you got to get this. Is there some people here, listen, you didn't make it through what you went through because you were that smart, because you were that skilled, because you were better than them or more gifted than them. It's because he kept you alive.
Yes.
He brought you through it.
Amen.
Caleb said, listen, everybody I know died in the wilderness, but God brought me through it. And if he brought me through, then it must mean that he still has a purpose for me. He must still have a place for me. If I've got a pulse, I got a purpose, right? It's kind of like what David said. David said, 1,000 fall at my left hand, 10,000 at my right hand, but for whatever reason, I just keep on stepping because God still has a purpose for me, and God still has a purpose for you. If you are breathing today, God has a purpose for you. If and no matter how crazy or problematic your circumstance might seem, listen, God has a purpose for you. There's still some land you need to walk into. So that's where we see Caleb. And so in Joshua 14:10, he goes, so here I am today. God's kept me alive. I'm 85 years old. And then Joshua 14:12, and of course one of my favorite verses, he says, now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. Give me, some translations say, give me my mountain. Give me my mountain. Again, notice he wasn't asking for something that wasn't his. He was taking a hold of what God had already given him, right? He was trying to take a hold of what my mountain. And I love this too, because by the way, speaking of contentment, something you got to understand is when we're talking about contentment, we're not talking about complacency. Complacency says, I don't want to fight. Contentment says, I want to fight the right fight. Contentment says, I'm satisfied with my portion, but I will fight tooth and nail for every inch of it. Contentment says, listen, I don't have time to worry about what's happening in someone else's boundary lines, in someone else's field. Listen, I celebrate that. I'll celebrate with them, but I'm going to make the most of the boundary lines God's drawn in my life. I'm going to make the most of the blessing and enjoy the blessing of my family and my opportunities right now in this season. And by the way, I share that with you because some of you, speaking of contentment and being able to celebrate others, listen, you want to know the sure sign that you struggle in this area of contentment is when you can't celebrate other people's successes.
Amen.
When you can't celebrate the good things God's doing in someone else's life. Because people who aren't content can't celebrate other people. Insecure people won't celebrate other people because if you can't appreciate what you have, you can't celebrate what somebody else has. And in fact, again, a telltale sign that you're insecure, you struggle with it, discontentment, is when somebody else gets blessed, you're always getting sideways, you're always getting frustrated. So again, contentment is very different than complacency. It's not the same thing. Contentment is God gave it to me, so I'm going to step out and take it. And he says, I want my mountain. And I love it because, again, he didn't ask for anything that wasn't his. wasn't his, but he asked for everything that was. And again, let's look at this. In Joshua 14:12, again, it continues on. It says, now give me my mountain, give me this hill country. And yet, here's what I love about this. He goes on to say, you yourself heard then that the Anakites were there, and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord is helping me. Again, this isn't about my skills, about my ability. It's because God has given me this land, and he's going to help me and step into victory in it. And he goes, I will drive them out just as he said. Again, remember, Caleb had already walked this land. Mm-hmm. This wasn't like, it wasn't like you walked up to it and like, whoa, I didn't see this mountain before. Wow, that's amazing. Like, that looks really cool. I think I'll try that. No, he'd already walked this ground before. And I think that's significant. I mean, like, that he'd already seen the challenges. He'd already seen this fortified city, that these people who are known had this reputation of being fierce fighters. And I think this matters for us because Caleb, what you got to get is Caleb wants his promise, but it's important to note that he's not unaware of its problems. He's not delusional here. He's not like Tony Robbins here, just constantly thinking positive about anything and everything. I mean, like, he's not oblivious to the challenges. He's not oblivious to the fight. He's not oblivious to the problems again. See, sometimes, sometimes the reason we covet somebody else's place, somebody else's position, somebody else's family, if we're honest, is because we see the promise from afar, but you only see the problems up close. We look at their life, we look at their job, we look at their success, and from afar, it looks like there were no challenges at all. From afar, it looks perfect. And again, sometimes part of the reason we covet what other people have, we look beyond the boundary to what somebody else has and think, oh, if I could just have that life, have that marriage without its issues, have those kids without the struggle and the challenge that my kids presents, right? But that's not what Caleb does. Caleb's aware of the problems. He says, listen, I don't celebrate the blessing. I don't ask God for what's mine because I don't think I won't have to fight for it. I don't celebrate my family, my church, my job. I'm not grateful for it because I don't think there are no problems with it. I see the problems, but I still celebrate the promise. Because here's the truth of the matter, is that every inheritance has its enemies. Every inheritance, everything that God is giving you, this land he's calling you to walk in and to take and embrace and to live in and appreciate and have gratitude for. Listen, it's not going to come without a fight. There's a fight that's going to come. It's going to have its enemies. See, if you don't see the enemies and the challenges when it comes to somebody else's inheritance, it just means you haven't gotten close enough. Because we all have it. Every inheritance, every blessing in our life, every boundary line comes with its challenges. And listen, that was no different for Caleb. And again, I love it because, again, not unaware of the problems, and in fact, seeing it and actually having the courage to sit there and look at probably the biggest problem section in this new land, in this promised land, and sitting there calling out that's the part I want. That's the mountain I want, right? Because see, Caleb, he understood something. And this might seem small to you, but I think it's significant, is that again, the Amalekites, they were referred to as giants. Yeah. These were giants. These were big guys. They were big people, and they were legendary in their battle skills and their fighting skills. They were totally intimidating. There's a reason why they were last on the list of, like, hey, let's go take this city and take these people. It's because it's like, man, I'm gonna wait till the very end to have to face that problem. But Caleb, he was able to find the courage to say, no, I want my mountain. God's promised me this land. And I think partially some of the reasons he was able to have such courage and have such confidence and have such faith is that he understood something, is that giant people don't live in puny places. Stick with me. Giant people, they don't live in puny places, which means if God calls you to big places, you need to be prepared that the bigger and the better the opportunity, the bigger the opposition. There are some big people that live in big cities, and you can either focus on how big the enemy is, and you can complain about how big the problems are, or you can sit there and think, man, behind this fight, behind this battle, on the other side of it, listen, God's already promised, and listen, if I'll just step forward, He's going to give it to me. And if I'm facing big problems, I'm facing big fights, that's nothing more than reflective of a big thing that God is trying to do in my life. That inheritance that God is wanting to bless me with, that God is wanting to lead me into, man, it's a big deal. See, if it was a little city, if it was a little promise, if it was a little calling, you'd have little enemies. But the fact that you're having to fight giants means that God has something great for you to do. It's reflective of His purpose in your life, of His promise for your life. And you can either complain about it, you can either just constantly be frustrated about one setback or the next, or see it for what it really is, a setup for God wanting to do the miraculous in your life. And listen again, remember what the promise was. The promise was, listen, every place you set your foot, I've already given you. I've already promised you the victory. Doesn't mean it's not going to come without a fight. Doesn't mean it's not going to come without a challenge. Doesn't mean it's not going to come without difficulty. I've already promised you, though, the victory. In other words, that the fight that you're facing, the inheritance you're going through, listen, you've got to understand, if God set it before you, if He set it within your boundary lines, you've got to trust that He set inside you all the strength, all the courage, all the